A terrible situation occurred in Tampa Bay Buccaneers training camp, down in a huddle screaming this morning in training camp practice. That is a devastating loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
A few days ago, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers absolutely dominated headlines by making one simple acquisition, signing Julio Jones to a one-year, $6 million contract. And while that became a very hot topic, as training camp started, we did get an update on Julio Jones, but there were multiple other updates in regards to storylines for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What's going on with Leonard Fournette? How is Julio Jones getting along with Tom Brady? Is this Tom Brady's last season? And most importantly, something so terrible that happened to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that it could potentially end their season before it even started. No, I'm not exaggerating. This is actually the worst thing that could have happened to them. So before we get to the content, man, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Most of you guys requested a Tampa Bay Buccaneers training camp update in our last video on Treylon Burks, so let me know in the comment section who we should cover next. And of course, make sure you follow me on Twitter if you want to join a fantasy football league with me. Now that we got all that out of the way, what the was that? Was that a bark? Now that we got all that out of the way, bark! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Let's start with some good news, man. Julio Jones officially made his debut, his training camp debut for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And for the most part, I have to admit, it kind of is bringing me back to the year that Tom Brady got Randy Moss during the 2007 season with the New England Patriots. Now, look, I understand everyone who is a Tom Brady fan is probably going to be comparing the Julio Jones acquisition to probably the greatest scenario that could happen for Tom Brady. Maybe I'm just likening them to one another because they were one of the most dominant wide receivers over the past decade, while also being perceived as past their prime at this stage of their careers. At the same time, Julio Jones is a little bit older than when Randy Moss was when he went to the New England Patriots, but that's besides the point. Julio Jones made his debut for Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers in training camp. He was rocking the number 85 jersey, and for the most part, man, it looked like business as usual for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everything actually seemed to be going well until a very unfortunate injury occurred, which we'll get to in just a second. A decent amount of you guys have been asking me what is going on with Leonard Fournette's weight, because a few days ago we made a video on how Leonard Fournette was 260 pounds. Well, we actually found out during the first few days of training camp that Leonard Fournette came all the way back to 245 pounds when he reported to camp today, per source. Veteran running back is back in shape. Crisis is averted. Leonard Fournette actually laughed off all of the criticism, and he's reported back to Tampa Bay Buccaneers training camp at 245 pounds. Now, he's listed at 228 pounds on the team's official roster, but last year he played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers while weighing 235 to 240 pounds. So he is within range of last year's playing weight. We actually had an update from Rick Stroud via the Pat McAfee show in regards to what happened with the weight situation.
He wrote about it 7 weeks ago, and at the time, Leonard Fournette said he was 240 something. I asked the coach if it was closer to 250 something, and he said more.
Another thing that Rick Stroud said on the Pat McAfee show is the fact that this is presumed to be Tom Brady's final season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which should be no surprise to anyone. I mean, if Tom Brady could have had his way if he was a free agent this past year, then he probably would have signed on with the Miami Dolphins. There's an ownership stake for him there. It's something that he was interested in and something that he was trying to pull off this past offseason. It didn't end up happening, but he even openly admitted it during a press conference. Although he didn't just straight up tell us, he kind of hinted to the fact that he was doing his best to try to pursue other opportunities outside of Tampa Bay. And Rick Stroud kind of reaffirms that on the Pat McAfee show. Take a look.
I think the thought is this is it in Tampa. He could have signed an extension here. He chose not to. I think he wants to be a free agent the way he was in New England. He didn't have that option this past offseason. So any designs he had on Miami or some other place, it was going to have to involve some kind of compensation here.
So look, I don't think this is something that we were very much surprised by. I mean, there was a chance that Tom Brady was going to retire this past year, and he ended up coming back. So that's a huge win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and of that. And originally, we assumed that Tom Brady was going to play until the age of 45. I think he might try to play one more season because he is going to hit free agency this offseason. We'll have to see how the season plays out because I think that's going to be a huge factor to his decision. But I think the biggest news we got today is something that has the potential to sabotage the Tampa Bay Buccaneers entire season. So Ryan Jensen originally wasn't going to come back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think anyone wanted to originally come back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What changed things was obviously once Tom Brady decided to come out of retirement 40 days after he decided to retire. The moment he did that, the day of free agency, you saw a huge influx of re-signees and some potential players that decided to come to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Primarily a lot of individuals that used to be former division rivals of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like Russell Gage and eventually Julio Jones and Kyle Rudolph later on in the offseason. So it's really unfortunate because during the early part of training camp, well, your discretion is advised, especially once you hear Ryan Jensen screaming in this video. Check it out. So Ryan Jensen's injury is really freaking bad. At the time I'm recording this video, I don't know what it is, but I mean, my guess would be a torn ACL or something of that sort. So Jenna Laney, ESPN says, it's not looking good for Bucs center Ryan Jensen, who suffered a left knee injury today. They're continuing to perform tests and we'll know more in the coming days. Robert Hainsey will step in now to fill Ryan Jensen's shoes. They'll look for a veteran replacement. Shaq Mason will be their right guard. Left guard would be Luke Godek or Aaron Stinney. But either way, Tom Brady could very well have 3 new interior linemen. And this is where it's kind of terrifying if you're a Tom Brady fan or if you're just a fan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now looking at the possibility of having to replace their entire starting offensive line. Alex Kappa, Ryan Jensen, and Ali Marpet. According to Adam Schefter, the Buccaneers are still doing tests on the injured knee of center Ryan Jensen and hope to know more in the next few days. But one source said this afternoon that, quote unquote, it's not looking good. So that's a word that we've been hearing over and over and over again. Well, a phrase that we've been hearing over and over again, that it's just not looking good in general. The reason why this is such a big freaking deal is a huge portion of Tom Brady's sustained success in the NFL is having an offensive line that he could actually depend upon. I mean, you don't want to just have anyone defending the greatest player of all time, especially when he's going into his age 45 season. There's some irony in this because Patrick Mahomes had to deal with this exact same situation, except it was in the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whereas Tom Brady is dealing with this situation during training camp. So there is some options for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to fix this. Probably your best option is to reach out to JC Tretter and see if you could get him to sign on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I would say, in my opinion, that would probably be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' best option. But I'm not exaggerating when I say this is by far the worst thing that could have happened to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during training camp up until this point. So let me know in the comment section down below if you're a Tampa Bay Bucs fan. How do you feel about this? What do you think about your team's past few days? Because there's some crazy highs, like signing Julio Jones is going to be a gigantic addition to a wide receiver room that already features the likes of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and getting Kyle Rudolph a couple weeks back is a great get as well. But at the same time, losing one of your most important offensive linemen to injury right as training camp is starting is definitely not ideal at all whatsoever. So I'd like to hear your opinions in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.